Y'all got anything y'all want to program?
Is it? What? Sad about Chris Fields. Oh, yeah. I hope it's a nice day. Oh, it's nice.
We know this thing.
The mics are on, the mics are on.
Lights are off.
No, they're not. You don't have to turn them on in here, they're just on now.
Well, that's good.
Okay. But this group.
I'd like to bring this meeting to order and this is a workshop. You do not do the invocation normally during that time, so I'm just going to ask everybody to stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Start off with the ethics statement, please. That is, if any members know of any conflict of interest or the appearance of a conflict of interest concerning matters on the agenda, please so state at this time. Not hearing any, I assume that there is no conflict of interest. If this one arises during the meeting, please let us know so that we can vote on that. The next thing I would like to do is I would entertain a motion to accept the agenda.
So moved.
I have a motion and a second. Is there any discussion? Not hearing. any?
Yes,
Okay.
okay. I believe that we are, considering the possibility of talking about, animal services as part of the police department, or not. And I think that this is not the right time for that discussion, because to do it would require either an amendment to the ordinance or a new ordinance. And I'd like, before we make a decision on this, I don't think we have enough information from, Noah, from, the police department, from the animal services officer, the ordinance establishing animal welfare, ordinance, which was achieved after 6 long meetings with a lot of public input, and amended in 2023 for the purpose of including leash law and the dog park regulations and so on. Nowhere in there does it establish that it is either a separate department or part of the police department. And this is something that we should clean up, but not today. This is a money discussion. This is the budget discussion. And I would propose that we, as part of this agenda, agree that this is not going to be part of this discussion, but that we set a date, probably June, to put this on our June Thursday regular meeting agenda with adequate preparation, presentations, and pros and cons from all sides for us to consider, and so that we can hear from the public. The public has no awareness, looking at today's agenda, that this would even come up. So
That's your
I'm
motion.
not, that,
I don't know if that was a motion, but what I would say, Alderman Davis, is that with last year or 2 years ago, when this was, we didn't have any public, you didn't ask for public, input when it was enveloped into the police station. So last year, when that conversation came up, I don't recall there being a need for that.
it had already been done. And you know, the city manager has not even been in the interim city manager job for 2 months yet. And I'd like for him to have an opportunity to know how this all works, what it's all about, and be prepared to tell us pros and cons of him being the direct supervisor versus it still being in the police department. It was kind of always a floating position because our ordinance didn't establish. We had it's the animal welfare ordinance and the animal protective services / code enforcement officer. Doesn't say that this is separate. And since I was on the ad hoc committee that created this in the first place, and it came as a lot of complaints and issues with how the existing animal control worked. In a word, awful. We came up with a very strong, good ordinance that was approved in March of 2019 and amended because of the dog park and leash issues in 2023. It deserves full discussion with all the pros and cons and input from the public. And this is not the day and time to do it. I think it needs to be done, but done right.
So two things that I would go back to is why did there's no motion?
Probably that. And I'm going to say correctly. Because I think you made a motion. Is that what you did?
Yes, I did.
Then we need to see if there's a second so we can have the discussion. Is there a second to that motion?
I'll think about it.
Okay, there's a motion and a second now.
Yeah, so why did it not need that last year?
And we can't answer it.
So I'll just suggest
I'm not
that,
even sure it went through us last year.
It didn't.
It went,
Well,
the manager has the authority to move things around. And I think that manager moved things around, which is within their authority to do.
But we also have the authority to create a department, to create employee roles and positions. I don't disagree that this was not done with our knowledge or input, but at this point, this is such an important position. It needs to be dealt with well.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because I thought I must have missed a meeting, which I didn't think I did because I felt like we were going off topic here. And I didn't see this on the agenda for today. I realized why it may come up for today's agenda, but I tend to agree. We're talking about finances.
I believe this would have, I believe this would have a budgetary impact.
In that, how we structure, how we
Well-
structure the budget.
I don't know how you can, yeah.
I don't see how the money
First of all,
changes.
first of all, it's a mischaracterization to say that we need to put it in the ordinance or some kind of document because it's in the budgets as a department. In multiple years, it was a standalone department. It says it in the minutes, it's in budget documents. So the fact that a year ago, an interim city manager decided to change it and use words like animal control in every document that I have a ton of documents because I was going to bring this up today because I think it's important to our animal welfare ordinance long-term, not because I'm not talking about anything to do with the police. I'm talking about long-term success of our animal protective services department, that it is a standalone entity. Because of all the things that are involved with it. And I'll do all that time, it was a direct report to the city manager. So it's not like we're reinventing a wheel. And so that's why I think the previous interim city manager looked at it as, and I can show you all of it, it refers to it as animal control, and that's not who we are. We wrote this ordinance to be something better than almost anything in the state. And I can tell you because I've read most of the other ordinances when we worked on this. And so to me, I mean, I've got a whole list of, because I wanted to go ahead and put it back as a standalone reporting to the manager, which is what it was for years and successful for years, starting July 1.
So I might have a conflict of interest with that then because a former animal control department took my dog and put it down. because of. So
Here,
here,
Well, that's why we wrote this ordinance. That's what I'm telling you.
like I said, previous experience was awful.
So, but my bigger conversation.
We have something thrown out on the table here about a conflict of interest. We got to resolve that first.
Not conflict of interest.
We, or you,
Mhm.
vote whether or not that's a conflict of interest. So Alderman Kelly thinks there may be a conflict of interest because she had some contact with the former, way the program was running and the way they did what they did with their dog. Now it's up to all of you to decide whether or not that's a conflict of interest.
There's no financial gain.
No,
Financial.
No,
No.
so,
But I'm sorry to hear that.
Yeah,
I am very sorry.
so,
that was one of the reasons we did this.
so I'm going to ask you, if you think this is not a conflict of interest, would you please raise your hand and say aye? And opposed? Okay. So it's unanimous that it is not a conflict of interest. Okay,
Thank you.
so we did that the official way. Now we go back to the discussion of.
So that for me, this is all about the department, keeping it not in another department that has a lot of other tasks, that it keeps it, and it's not having anything to do with any of that other than the long term. We invested so much in this community, in this ordinance. We invested in the progression of our animal protective services department. They used to have a small office in City Hall. As we grew and the task grew, it became the jail annex facility. So I just want us to recognize that, number one, I'm trying not to, because I spent a year of my life on this. I'm trying to, for us to understand that we are our best selves for this ordinance. We are a cut above our neighbors. To give you an example, I've got a whole list of the things that.
Are you getting off topic? The topic is whether we're going to table this discussion or discuss it.
Well, I'm saying why I want to discuss it now is that.
But it's not about the ordinance. It's about when we discuss it. That's what the,
Well,
the issue is, I don't think we can wait until June. We're supposed to be adopting a budget in June.
so,
Wait to June to have the conversation.
well, so can I ask this? And this is probably a Joey question at this point. So let's say that we go forward with our discussion today with Animal Protective Services remaining in the police department. In June, if we decide that it needs to be a standalone department, is it something that we can easily pull out of the police department and put into a separate line item budget?
In terms of the salary and benefits, yes, it'd be up to discussing the specific lines like travel and training, if it's gonna differ from what chief requests in his budget, because it's based on per officers, things like that. But I think for the most part, it could be pretty easily extracted.
Okay, thank you.
would that be difficult to do?
Well, I think I'll go ahead and jump in and I'll say we have already broken down on the last page of your big document, APS, of what has been adopted, what the projections are for 26. The only difference is it is hard for us to know what is year to date because it's all grouped in with police. So it would take additional time, but I think as far as whether or not we continue with this discussion today or not, I think we can easily move. If we continue today, we can easily make it happen with what we have and add on as we go. If you decide to wait to June, I think we can also go forward and change that as we go through those conversations.
I think that we can do this simultaneously and wait till June to have a conversation. Seems a bit odd.
The advantage of waiting to June, if nothing else, is that it gives the public an awareness that this is going to be on the agenda and that what the issue is, and give the public an opportunity to speak about it and to know about it. And to go forth today when this is not even on the agenda, the public doesn't know about it, goes against our commitment to transparency and public inclusion.
So the question is before us. And Madam Clerk, make sure that I've got this correct. There's a motion on the floor with a second that the topic of the placement of the animal,
Animal services.
Animal
Protective
services, whatever it is.
Department.
the animal unit is,
Those are protected
is
services department.
is postponed to June. That's the question before. Or is there any other discussion on that matter before we vote on that motion?
It would be good to establish the exact date in June. What is the Thursday regular meeting in June?
We have got to be able to have simultaneous conversations. We cannot kick a can to June just because. No, let's have
This
these
is not a
conversations.
can.
There's nothing.
This is the beginning of April.
Well, parliamentary wise, the motion that's on the floor, it does not go off to one tangent or the other. One may disagree with it, and that's going to be in your vote, but I see nothing that's wrong with the actual motion.
Well, I'm not going to say that. I think it's quite silly to have a conversation in June when you're adopting the budget in June. You can't have.
I really doubt that I'm going to vote on this. I hope I'm not going to vote on this, but the answer is that there's a motion, it's a rational motion, and how we settle those issues is by.
Well, I have one more thing to say. Moving it to a specific date does not set it aside, devalue it, dilute it, does not say this is unimportant, we shouldn't talk about it. We should.
So are you amending your motion to move it to June 12th?
Well, I did say in my motion to June, so now.
So we can't have a,
Two months.
we can't have a
Look at the specific
conversation
date.
over the
Two
next
and a
2
half
months
months.
about this. We can't have open discussion about this because now we're setting a date into the future that's.
Well, I don't want to have an open discussion about it until we have heard from all sides. I want Noah to have had.
And
an
that's part of the
opportunity.
budget
I'm speaking,
process.
please. I can't hear you while I'm speaking. Thank you. We are talking about the budget today, period, not the functions, not moving, not creating a department. I want to hear details, pros and cons from the police chief, from the interim city manager, who, as I said, has not even been here 2 months yet, as a city manager, about how he perceives the pros and cons of this being something directly under his supervision. Now, I'm not saying I don't agree that this should be moved to another and become a separate department. That's not the issue. The issue is to make that, if we're going to do that, let's do it right. And this is not right
Well,
to
having
spring it today.
No, we're asking for open, no decision's going to be made on this today, but
How
it is
many
a budget.
members of the public are here to talk about it?
We can't, it's a workshop, there is no public comment.
And it's a budget, it's a budgetary item.
No, it's
It's
not.
part of, it's part of
It's
this
part of the
budget.
budget, but if you take that out of the budget, now what are we gonna do with it?
Has there been any discussion about taking it out of the budget?
Yeah, I made, before you got here, I made that motion.
There's, yeah,
So the money's gonna be in there regardless of where it's put.
Yes.
The question then becomes, is it gonna fall under NOAA or is it gonna fall under Todd? Is it gonna be animal control or is it gonna be animal protective services? We're talking semantics about money.
Leadership doesn't matter. Budget is all that matters here. Who is in charge doesn't make the hill of beans here.
That's what you're done regardless.
Yes, no, in terms of, yeah, budget, for this meeting, we're gonna budget for the animal protective services and whether he's in charge or he doesn't matter. It's the budget.
So the question that's before us
Thank you.
is, the motion has been made and second, is that we
so the first
take no action on this issue until June.
I will, whether you make an action today or in June, I will not be interested in transferring it outside of the police. So you can move, y'all can discuss it later on, but generally it does well where it's at. So I'm not interested in discussing it.
So
If you want to-
But that's not our issue.
That's not the issue for this particular
today.
motion.
I'm just being clear.
So is there any, other than repeating ourselves, which we've been doing? Is
Well,
there- is there-
yes,
is there
there's
any-
one thing. The ordinance title is Animal Welfare Ordinance. The position is Animal Protective Services. If you want to read it, it is section 3-2 of our Code of Ordinances.
Is there any other discussion on this topic? All those who are in favor of continuing this topic and pulling it out of this today's conversation until June 12th, please say aye and raise your hand.
Aye.
All opposed? Yeah, thanks. So I tried to stay out of the conversation. I would entertain a motion later on that we don't have to wait to June 12th to have this discussion. But for purposes of moving on for today, we'll both continue the conversation until we get more facts. Does my statement make sense? What I'm saying?
I don't think we were asking for any decision. I'm not asking for any decision to be made on this today. I think it's important that we have the conversation and the person doing the job, that budget aligned with this budget.
Don't you think that the public should hear this open discussion? It
They
doesn't change
are,
the.
it's being televised.
We've got one of the finest writers in Southport history right here with us today.
Yeah.
I mean, with the exception of.
Yes, sir, but I agree.
How's that feel, Bob? You feeling okay over there?
Well, the motion that's in front of us.
It is what it is, and I think that that's a
I'm going to
reasonable
vote
motion.
to continue it for right now.
Do you mean table it to June 12th?
Table.
Okay.
Well, welcome to our second department budget meeting. I want to first welcome Joey Cronletter, who we've announced as our new finance director. Gene Davison, who is our new deputy finance director, and tax collectors in the back here, so we're glad to have her. So we'll go through our police department budget today with Chief Todd Sworn and Lieutenant Matt Burgess. So we're excited for that. And so Chief, I'm here today with you. One more thing, yes, if you'll turn that on. One more thing before he begins, I've given you another sheet here that I sent to you in email. This is not really specific overall to police, but it gives us a breakdown of the changes we've seen with the loss of the water sewer fund and what those, it really gives a good picture of where our deficit's coming from. Since we've lost water and sewer, it says where we've brought those charges over to general fund from water and sewer, and since we don't have that going forward, that's the main driver of that deficit as we look to go forward and let folks know where that's coming from. Chief?
Thanks, sir. So, good afternoon, I guess it's close enough to say that. I'm sitting here for you and talk about the needs and the operations of the police department. So I have before you, I passed out when I arrived, just to give you a little overview. I always like to, when we go to the new budget, kind of let you know kind of where we are in the past years. I just want to briefly talk through this, and then we'll move right into the numbers. So just to clarify, everybody understands the Southport Police Department is staffed by 25 personnel. 16 of those are sworn full-time officer positions, myself, 2 lieutenants, 2 sergeants, a detective, and 10 patrol officers. We have 2 full-time civilian positions within our department, the admin specialist and our animal protective services officer. We have 5 part-time sworn officer positions, and we have 2 part-time civilian positions, one of those being a backup for our APS and our accreditation manager. Those are the part-time positions. I am happy to report that we only have 1 vacancy right now that we're actually entering for today. We have some interviews set up for today, so knock on wood, looks like we'll be going into the summer season with full complement of officers. All of our part-time positions are also filled, so we do have a great complement of part-time officers that are helping us work. That is helping me offset the request to ask for full-time positions, so they are carrying tremendous loads. I just always want to highlight their working and how well that's helping our operation altogether. Our part-time position, as I mentioned, field recruitment and retention still remains a top priority for us. Pay, benefits, schedules, and wellness of our officers, I think, help to promote that. So I just want to encourage that we continue. Y'all done a great job since I've been the police chief, backing and giving the employees and staff what we need. So I want to thank you for that. Because y'all have done some things above and beyond some of the things y'all have done. So when you offer to pay half of the employee family package for benefits, y'all did, I believe, a couple of years back, and that's been a tremendous help. It's helped us, I know, gain some employees because we lost employees early on, but because of the strides that this board has taken, it's encouraging and attracting people to South Fork. So that's something you should all be proud of. So that's just a little bit about the personnel. As far as the department overview, I just want to give you a little bit of numbers, and these are not all of the numbers, but as you see, our total cost of service this year were $13,571. It's an uptick, as you can see, last year at $8,987. So again, the demands and calls continue to climb, and we try to manage that as best we can through our current staffing and demand staff to balance that workload. Of those 13,571, 409 of those report related, 192 assigned our investigators, and 52 lost and found reports. 343 are suspicious calls. That's where, person, vehicles, activity, 275 lost, 162 disturbance calls. I know some family disturbance calls and intoxication fights related to those types of things. 55 parking complaints, 117 motor vehicle crashes, and 1,296 traffic related actions. That can be whether it's traffic enforcement. We do have a lockout service that we provide. A lot of police departments have gone away from that, but being a small family town like we are, we do have lockout kits. There's a liability form that's filled out, so we continue to do that service as well. 61 assist motors, whether that's breaking down, helping them get their vehicle started and calling tow and things like that. Animal protective services calls that you see, total of 526 animal protective services calls. 110 of those calls are 911 reported calls, and 416 of the 526 are internal APS calls. I wanted to spell that out because Kate has a phone, her cell phone that's her work phone. We don't have an office phone line down at that office. That's how it was and has always been. So she receives calls directly to her cell phone sometimes because she does the feral cat programs and different things. She's very well respected in our community, so people are used to calling her wildlife related calls and stuff. So 416 of that 526 are internal calls she receives. The 110 call is the 911 calls.
That number you just gave, so when they call her, there's a tracking of that, like a keep you can see.
She has a document that she provides us, so I can dig that out.
Is included.
Yes, I've got some documents on that she has. She's got a way that she. Yes, sir. And so the 110 911 calls, that's when somebody calls 911, I've just hit a dog or I've witnessed something, a dog blocking a car or something like that. Those 110 calls are 911 reported calls that goes through our call center, through our computer-aided dispatch, and it's pushed out. 40 of those 110 calls are answered by our APS officers. 70 of those 110 were answered by police officers. So our police officers and our APS office work pretty well together, as we know. Kate, when she's off duty, you do have a backup part-time officer, but he has a full-time work schedule, so he's not always on call. So a lot of calls are able to be answered by police officers. They work well together. When we have a bite, for example, come in recently, we had a bite at the hospital. They call 911, ask for someone, officer goes. Kate's done a good job training the officers to take information for her. If she needs to come out, she does. But sometimes the officers are able to handle that, so she doesn't have to come back in. 218, I put in your document, pet licensing. That's where all of our animals are registered. We encourage everyone to register their animals. That's an online service that people go directly to do that. So she gives me those numbers each month as well. We had 11 bites reported, 1 cat, 10 dog bites. 16 animal intakes, 10 of those were cats and 6 of those were dogs. I know there was some questions before about how much we use our kennel sites and things of that nature. So I wanted to add that. Those were the impound intakes that she's been dealing with. There were 29 warnings and citations issued. And just because this is kind of new to me, the discussion y'all had before me, I just want to, I feel like I'm kind of compelled to let you know, Animal Protective Services was given over to the police department, the manager there, so she called me and asked me about that. And asked me would I be willing to take that on, and later on, she did call me back to her office and said that she was gonna ask that APS be put on the police department. We have not changed the name. I've never referred to her. She's Protective Services. I have a passion too for animals, and I was a board member, and fortunate things happened with Alderman Kelly, the things he reported. Animal control code enforcement was up the police department for many, many years, and so there were some unfortunate things that happened. It was removed, and again, the committee that was formed by Alderman Mossel, I know you sat on that, it was a tremendous effort. Kate was hired, Animal Protective Services as Brunswick County Sheriff's Officer refers to them, as Leon Police Department refers to them, as Williamson Lakes. They all have, Animal Protective Services within their umbrella. So I just wanted to make sure that people don't think that, that was passed over to us, and we have not changed the appearance at all, her uniform, her vehicle. She still works out of her downtown office. We have not restricted anything. Now, we have asked her, she does help us with our golf cart inspections and some different things, because it's a help to us, because we have a lot of golf carts in Southport. So it's spelled out in our ordinance that civilian personnel can help us to do that. And we're overwhelmed with calls sometimes. That's something we asked Kate to do early on, and she accepted and helps us do that. We've also been talking to her about helping us answer phones at the office with Miss Allison. She's my only civilian clerk. Throughout the year, we've had to call in officers to work overtime to come answer phones when Allison's had a mishap and had to leave, but we can talk about that later. Anyway, I just want to clarify that Animal Protective Services is certainly identified and dear to us. So, moving on to the community engagement and outreach, I just want to highlight some numbers. 8,002 officer initiated. These are going to be special checks, foot patrol, business and house checks, people out of town. 728 golf cart inspections were done last year. 173 special event permits were issued and reviewed by the police department. That's whether that's noise or ceremonies, festivals, games, and things like that. Those go through Parks and Rec director, and then they filter down the committee for signature and approval. 161 community programs and outreach that we attended. That's where certain officers do events, or I'm speaking at an engagement with groups and things like that, officers for schools. And then there was 11 ABC permits that we issued. Something new that we've recently done in the past month and a half or so, after coming to board meetings and then hearing complaints and concerns from citizens about reckless driving, things like that. I just put on here that we have recently stood up a traffic initiative safety unit to address various concerns and complaints from citizens and visitors. We're doing this, the traffic safety unit utilizes high visibility enforcement. We take data that we're getting, where the call volume complaints, try to direct that unit where to look for those types of things. So I just put a brief summary about what that's doing, and that's just an initiative we're trying to do within our budget to try to help combat some of the complaints that you receive, as well as our citizens, about the high volume of traffic and things of that. So it is making an impact. I know, because my phone's been ringing about folks for being stopped, and not all of them are bad. A lot of people are actually excited. They're thankful that we're doing, and they're seeing more officers enforcing and being visible. So I just wanted to let you folks know about that. Social media communication, just want to highlight some of this. We have, of course, a Facebook page, Southport Police NC. We use this for various things, department related events, services, ceremonies, etc., all related to our department. We had a very active presence during any of our natural disasters, hurricanes, or events or happenings. A couple of things I just highlighted. We've got 18,889 followers to that page. The recent weather events, we try to, something I was at the sheriff's office, you can show somebody better than you can tell them. So when we have a lot of weather events, one good thing that we've seen there, and it still continues today, is you can tell somebody that Leonard Street is flooded or closed, but if you can take a picture of that or some kind of a video or something to put it really allows folks to stay home. We really saw that recently with our snow and ice event. But I did a video, just a couple of things I highlighted. There was a video that I did at Waterfront Park, one of the recent ice storms, and it was over 52,000 views last time I checked it. We had a hazardous road condition post that received over 21,000 views. During the PT8 storm, flooding conditions, of course, we know about that and how that impacted our roads. There was 115,000 views on a post when we had a rescue vehicle trying to get folks to and from. And we also gained, I think, just during that storm, I think the Facebook page picked up like 1,100 additional followers, because people were utilizing our social media to stay posted and updated. So I felt like that was good to know, because I feel like our message is working, and the safety of the citizens is priority. We do have a police department app that's fairly new. We're seeing great success with that. It's a downloadable app. A lot of people are wanting things at their fingertips. We got 887 downloads of that right now. And I'm trying to continue to push that. Hopefully those numbers continue to climb, but that's something that we can, I can send out updates and things from my phone. It also forwards folks to be able to do other things, such as they can pull up the app and see crime prevention tips, scams and things that are going on. We have these trends and things. We can upload information to the app. People can freely access it and get some information. All of our golf cart information is recently put on the app, so if you have questions, you're new here, you can scan that. And you can see our outreach ordinances and everything with golf carts and how to do that, fill out forms and whatnot. Hiring APS services is also been on it now, that's new, so they can access the app and pull up our APS, all of that is at their fingertips. Sex offenders to your area, a lot of people want to know the safety of their children, so that's something that we have in there as well. You can click on that from the app and it'll show you where sex offenders registered are in your state, where you are. Up news and events, and there's one good thing I do like about it as well, complaints and commend folks. I always want to make sure people know there's ways. I always want to kind of know what our officers are doing good and bad. You know, as the chief, I worry about things that they may not be doing right. So I review body camera footage as well as our command staff. We do that and try to keep us seeing how they treat customers. That's something we can do, just sitting behind the desk. That's a good thing about body cameras. But this is a good way, this app is, if someone has a bad encounter, they can go right to the app, fill out a form, and when they hit send, it comes right to my desk and also my command staff, so we can forward, follow up on that. You can submit tips and contact us. Just wanted to update you as well. I know the Department of Accreditation, I brought to you before, risk assessment. I've been trying and striving to get this done to become the police chief. It is a long, lengthy process. And I know that, I've drug it out, it may sting, but I just wanted to let you know, we are really trying to work on that. There were so many things new to me coming in 2018 that I had to overcome, and a lot of that had to do with a whole slate of officers. I only had like 3 officers left by the time that I was shook out, but I've always wanted to work to try to get us accredited. So I've been working with that, the NCLEA accreditation process. We hired a part-time accreditation manager, Mr. Bobby Manis. He was retired from Monroe PD. He spent the latter part of his retirement to do their accreditation. So he's recently moved here. He's one of our part-time civilian staff. So he and now retired Major Burke, who recently retired, and that's why Matt is sitting here with me today, because he's shadowing Major Burke's stuff. They are working together to continue to drive that process for us, and Lieutenant Burgess is our main point of contact, leads to oversee. So just some of the things we've done thus far, but our policies have been read and overviewed, now aligned with they're kind of lining up to the credentialing process. There's a lot of moving parts of that. So all of our evidence, to include prior 2018 evidence, is still ongoing to identify and process for disposition. This has been an extensive process, and we've had to overcome a lot of roadblocks to make that happen due to the prior mismanagement of the police department and the conditions that the evidence was in when I received it coming in 2018. Evidence is one of the primary factors in accreditation. It's very, I mean, they said it's a large chunk of how you handle your evidence, and not to go into a lot of talking, but I mean, our evidence was still housed in the old courthouse when I came in, and it's in an abandoned building, so we had to go in and extract that. A lot of it was on mold and conditions, so we had to have it pretty much decontaminated. That's why, if you wonder why there's a couple container boxes still behind the 2020 we obtained those for free, and that's where that evidence is being stored and dried out. Lieutenant Burgess and some folks are doing a good job to dig through that. The amount of firearms that were in there, they've all been taken care of, and the dispositions and everything have been reached. So, a list of process identifying accreditation, concern, and risk management that's being reviewed by myself. Again, a lot of procedural matters, but we've, that's been identified. So they pretty much have reviewed all of our policies, and I have a list that I have to try to help them correct and get lined up. We met with there's a couple area agencies here in Brunswick County that are also seeking accreditation. So we pulled a partnership together with those folks. So we're meeting now to try to make sure we're all on the same map to get this done together. We think we'd be stronger to get that done together as a team of agencies. So myself and the lieutenant, we've already attended a couple of accreditation seminars to learn more about the process and sit down and be face to face with some of the folks that are actually be in our office for our accreditation. And lastly, on this, the facilities, of course, is another major factor in accreditation. Since moving in September, we've been working diligently to align that new facility to reflect accreditation standards and measures. So we're working really hard on that. I didn't want you to think that's, again, I know it's taking a little while, but it is still a priority. Training and equipment, the new Axon cameras that we had, the $201,000 grant we received, they are now all fully operational. I'm actually proud that we're the first police agency or law enforcement agency in Brunswick County to have fully, this actual Axon service is what the states, across the state they're going to now. It's what the new district attorneys are actually using for all of their evidence and processing. So instead of some of the old school ways of submitting reports up, felony reports, everything is streamlined through emails and cloud and that kind of thing. So we've logged approximately about 904 hours have been logged over the year for training. Training is very important, especially in what we do. We want to make sure that we're ready. Readiness is key. So training is very important. If you're not trained, you're pretty much trained to fail. So this just spells out some of the trainings that we've been doing, including, I won't read them all. I know we need to get on the numbers of, but we've done some, of course, radar intox. We've done some radiological training because we sit right near the nuclear plant and we do not have a lot of that. So we step our game up and get some radiological training for our officers this year. Emergency management training, some of the commands that sat through, dealing with storms, veteran CIT crisis intervention training officers attended and have them develop interview, interrogation, courtroom prep. In-service driver training, something I was proud of, even being small agencies, we teamed up with Leland PD. Unfortunately, we've had some at-fault accidents this past year, and you'll see why we have an increase in one of our lines. You're probably going to ask about that, but unfortunately, wrecks I can't predict, and certainly hope we don't have, but, so we did an actual in-service driver course and, did some 8-hour day training and actually getting out driving. And that certainly helps when we talk about the league and things of that nature. So, new camera trailer that we obtained. I know people ask about that sometimes. I call it my alien trailer. You see it sitting around different areas. It's got a telescopic arm with cameras on top of it. It does have a blinking blue light, so it's not like a secret. People should know by now that it's a police monitoring system. I've had some folks ask me about that, but it's already been helping us. It's aided us, with several accidents in and around the city and some of our parking lots. We put in areas where we can't have cameras, but it helps us and it does deter crime. It's been very helpful during the PTA traffic storm. We were able to utilize and deploy that out into that area before the state even moved their camera system out. So we were able to get that camera out there on the state that night. The sheriff, highway patrol commander, we were able to set up a link and send it to all of those folks. So they were able to use our camera trailer to pull a link up from their phone to see traffic conditions to start deploying, efforts and agencies and resources. So, and the additional cameras that I asked you guys for early on in the year have been a big help as well. They're all up and operational with on base to record where Garrison Community Building. They've been used, they just recently helped us with this, I know Rob, Carol there had a picture, I think you must have been downtown, the water spout dropped down and we got a lot of calls. So our system was able to record that and look at that and we were able to track that. I got called in a restaurant, I was actually eating lunch and I was able to pull it right up and make sure it wasn't making landfall, and our comm center was calling, so letting us know that it was approaching the Southport waterfront. So the cameras are very helpful. I know people sometimes want to fuss and know it's an eye in the sky, but we use the cameras strictly for safety and stuff like that. I mean, we're not a live crime center like some of the larger agencies. Wilmington, I've toured their center. They've got a room probably twice the size of this. They have staff monitoring. We're not that, but it does help us tremendously. We've had some unfortunate cars in the river. It helps us to estimate and investigate those as well, as far as like break-ins and things that come. Lastly, again, just to close this all out with storm response, January 9, we had inclement weather with ice. August 5, we had tropical storm Debbie. And then September 16th, we had the PTC8 storm that caused so much problems. But just to kind of briefly touch on that, within about 4 to 6 hours window, of course, we had those several inches of rain. We had about 45 calls for service that we balanced throughout that morning, trying to reel this all in and get folks help. So I just spelled out a little bit of information on that. This was a great partnership between the city police and our city fire department. But we had to deploy and activate our partial EOC under the mayor. He came up with the city management time and helped us kind of manage that. I kind of sat in as an instant commander. Our fire chief and deputy fire chief were out of town, so it was unfortunate that they were not there to help. We had a bunch of issues trying to do that. And protective services officer, Marshall, I was able to call her. She came up and helped me scribe, and she was able to write down and help me keep up with all the craziness that's going on, because we had pretty much all hands on deck. I didn't have anybody really in there helping me manage this. Usually our fire chiefs are here, but it's just a day they were gone. But again, APS helped me describe that, and then we started bringing in people that we were rescuing from these flooded out houses and stuff. We were able to send Kate downstairs, and she was able to maintain and hold the front down while folks were coming in and out. We were assisted by Holden Beach PD, Charlotte PD brought some high clearance vehicles down, as well as VSL sent us manpower to the south, where we were like the hardest hit area, so they were able to deploy and get some folks down here to help us. Then in turn, our high clearance vehicle that we have ended up at Bowling Springs for the rest of the night, because they were so heavily impacted with downflow water. They had a couple officers that were trapped in their cars, flooded out cars, so we were able to help them for the rest of the night as well with some of our resources. We did a later after action about that actual incident, and I just failed out here briefly. We identified the lack of staff and accessibility to technology. I could not get signed on to the technology in the room to look at things. I was actually using a phone and a couple other small devices, and we kind of overcome that and spelled that out. But the reality of teamwork and that effort kind of outshone all of the negative. But we do like to kind of look at our faults and try to learn from those types of things. So we did an after action. And then of course later we had the outfall of the bridges. So the rest of that time from September to October 16th, when the second bridge finally opened, Southport PD, we put in approximately 550 man hours of traffic directing and standing out in intersections and directing traffic. At Monroe PD, they sent us a complement of officers in through the state DOC request. They spent about 280 hours of man hours standing out directing traffic. In Southport PD, we kind of took the lead and command on that situation because the border here, I had so many people ask, well, that's county stuff, so why are you guys so heavily involved? And the sheriff, everybody was so overwhelmed and they were deploying resources across the state. We just let it impact us so bad. Y'all know that because you lived it with us. So, but I just wanted to give you an overview, not to carry on too terribly long, but I think it's important. I don't think y'all always hear about everything that we do. So I just want to kind of give you some numbers to look at moving forward. So, anybody have anything else or questions on that?
Let me ask you one question.
Yes,
On the first page,
Yes, sir.
we went from $8,987 to $13,570, that's roughly 50%.
Yes,
What
sir.
do you attribute that to?
Well, a lot of that contributes, I believe, to the impact. We have a lot of folks today visiting Southport. I blame it on our tours. I don't want to go that direction, but we do have a lot. People look at Southport PD, and I get this a lot. They think, y'all are 4,000 people. Your department you don't need anything else. You're great. But we deal with the thousands of folks in and out of Southport daily. That's traffic related incidents, disturbance calls and things like that. So that's what we look at. And, of course, we did learn during the PTA storm, we were dealing with approximately about 30,000 car count in and out of Southport during the day. We had a lot of people don't realize how much the Baldwin Island ferry system brings in and out of here. The NC car ferry that dumps cars every hour, the amount of people working at the hospital. So just our working family, our citizens, and then the influx of visitors that Brunswick County as a whole continues to see. We see that in our daily work. So I think that's what we're looking at as far as contributing to that as well.
Let's blame it on all those people coming in, our people in South Carolina.
Yes, sir.
Chief, there's gonna come a time, and I hope it's soon, when we're talking about, served meals and beverage tax of 1%. I believe, no, correct me on this, please, if I'm wrong. The money received from that tax goes toward tourism services. Is that correct?
It would be for public safety and infrastructure.
Oh, okay,
So it's
So-
police, fire, EMS, roads, sidewalks.
okay. Well, when we are preparing, or when we're, getting ready to do that,
Marketing campaign, the money that'll come from that.
yeah, I mean, can you have pulled out some facts and figures to say how much servicing tourism, for example, and visitors, transients, like from the ferry to the hospital and then back over to the ferry, but how much of that is part of your expenditures? And that will help us, I think.
But let's remember, that's also people who live outside of Southport city limits. That is not just tourists. That is not just people coming and staying in the area. That's right. It's the 211 corridor, it's Leland, it's Oak Island, it's Shallow, it's all of those people coming here. And I would like to remind everyone that it's not just tourists.
Sure.
It's people that are here every day,
Yes.
because we're the town center they have.
Yeah. And I have several to say, you're our downtown, we are in Southport, yes, I wish I had a dollar every time somebody asked where all these people going to
We do
Southport.
too, me too.
Yeah. So we have beautiful waterfront, we have commodities, I mean, you come down here, when I was growing up, downtown Southport, we were not, I remember a time when Roberts looked like Columbus County, I mean, there was a lot of vacant buildings and storefronts, and now, I mean, you can go down here and park forward, walk in every direction, and have a little bit for anybody who's young and old for that matter. I think we just have a lot to offer. You know, we're a quaint, small town with a good deal, and so I think that's what brings them here. So,
You didn't say Columbus County.
well, I did. Probably hard for somebody to think that now, but really, these buildings, Mark, probably been growing up here, so I remember a lot of storefronts. were-
Sure.
I remember when the county
Left, yeah.
Yes, it was bad.
We got a Radio Shack
I
downtown.
remember, yes, sir.
So we're gonna come to a discussion one day when we get brave
Mhm.
and figure out that there's not just one way to fix a budget. Money is not the only way to fix a budget. Policy can also fix a budget
And how, in what way?
in changing the way we do business in Southport. In terms of what would be the cost if we did not entertain tourism. Your question is one of the most important on my here. What would we pay if we didn't allow people to come freely? What would we have to pay? One of my questions was, has the ETJ changed your service area?
The ETJ really doesn't play a lot on our side because we continue and have always responded to calls in the ETJ. The sheriff's office, there's 12 police departments, we meet every 2 months, and with all the chiefs and the sheriff, different ones, everybody is just overrun busy. They're understaffed, so, we still answer calls. In the ETJ. I can pull that number, I didn't think.
And I'm a bad guy. You ask Renee and Levi,
Right.
they tell you. But if we stop being so generous with our services as a policy, would it reduce our cost? And again, we're just serving the community as if we're the leader. I always pronounce the hegemon, whatever it is. We're not the leader anymore, but we want to act like it. We want to help everybody, want to do everybody, but we don't pay, we can't pay bills. So the cost of these officers, if all we did was protect our citizens, and we did not open up our roads and our sidewalks or our right of ways to free parking everywhere, come and get it for free. And we tightened down on that. Would it reduce the need for our police force?
You would increase it because then we have parking enforcement also.
Well, I think that to your point, there's creative mechanisms like the prepared meals tax that tourists would pay, that would contribute, that they don't currently. You know, if the board wanted to look at, I know Alderman Carroll has wanted us to look at paid parking. If we was to look at that, that would be a way they would contribute. So I definitely think there are some creative ways like that for them to contribute.
I was really tired of, we have consistent people that live local, like you say. We need them to contribute somehow, permanent parking, deal with them and not entertain tourists. Do not give away our parking for free anywhere,
One of the problems we have,
unless you're a citizen or you paid that parking permit.
yeah, that's one of the problems we have. If we don't have tourists, 75% of the restaurants we have in this town will be here.
And none of our hotels will be.
That's correct. That is correct.
Hilton Head, Aspen,
First,
and there are all kinds of very nice places that have high demand for hotels.
Yeah.
I think you'll become more exclusive and the price will go up.
4,000.
So
And support all the restaurants.
I grew up as a realtor. I grew up renting beach houses. This is what I've done all my life. And the more exclusive it's become, the more expensive it's become. So it's not exactly my nature to say this, but that's the way you fix it versus keep trying to do the same old thing. Looks like y'all been saying it.
Do we have any
So
questions for the police budget.
So statement there, okay, on the camera operations, is that an individual? You just use it when you need to, or does anyone maintain that, look at that all day long? Does anyone sit in an office and anything that, any automation, I know Freedom, I got Freedom. They got stopped one day, with a camera that caught the license tag. Automated.
Yeah, we don't have plate readers on any of the cameras.
Okay.
There is a feature to that. But
Yeah.
we don't have any plate readers. There's an added cost to that. And then, a lot of agencies I've talked to that have plate readers, they have them like on cameras on the outskirts of town, like every entry and exit course. So heaven forbid we had a missing person or a kidnapped or something, a child or anybody for that matter, you could look at that if it reads those plates. But they're strictly up. We don't look at unless we need to. We don't have, like I said earlier, a live, like a crime, a live, sensor where people are. There are some agencies that do that. They look at some of the areas and they're constantly looking at, but we don't.
But like one officer would do that all the time.
Right, yeah, we don't
We
have.
don't have that. But any officer can, go to that and get access to it.
No, it's kind of controlled by our command staff. We have it. And, so if there's a crime that necessitates pulling camera footage, a lot of times. Lieutenant will do that.
And you can track people which way they went, that kind of thing. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
All right.
I mean, like last night, or not last night, but an example, just, one of the most the recent wreck we had with the vehicle went off. I think we've had, I can't remember, but one of them, when I got down there, we were able to recover one of the occupants, and he said there was 2 other people in the vehicle, so, I called and had somebody pull it up so I could confirm that. He could not tell us, and he was having an out of consciousness, but we were able to use it to confirm whether it was or was not, and that kind of thing, but, yeah, they're not like monitored all the time.
Okay, you talk about your social media. When things get bad, it's almost like you run the show sometimes because people depend on that social media post a lot of times.
Yeah, that's something I learned, under Sheriff Ingram's leadership. We talked about it out there. And when I was, working for him, they actually put me in one of the divisions to kind of spearhead some of the social media stuff and some of the new programs like the Citizens Academy. I was actually honored to be able to help create and start that under when I was in their crime prevention unit. And there's that Facebook page back, I think like 2008, but
Is there a cost? That's a soft cost.
And then-
It's your time, and there's no additional cost for typing it. Nothing.
Yeah, he's doing a great service for us. And what I want to do is try to get those, not everybody will use Facebook, not everybody uses Twitter, not everybody uses those social media. I want to send those posts, RSS feeds or what they're called, to the city's website. To
Well,
make sure that we have content that's shared,
yes.
that they go, I want them to go to the city website more than I want them to go to Facebook.
Well, we kind of, so she's in the room, so we kind of have a little hook on that. I mean, we want to make sure that we have the same message going across. So
Yeah.
a lot of times it is, if we go under state of emergency, like the fire department page, we kind of feed off that. And we work heavily with Cheyenne, and she also has our app. So a lot of times if something's going on, then I put something out in the app, and I'm usually calling her and the city manager for that matter. With the last instance we had, in between calling both of them, I was able to call her. She actually got posted up. So we want to make sure we try to resonate and get that out. So.
You're strong, you have a lot of following, and y'all getting together, making sure it's on the same page.
Well,
But we want it on the face, we want people to go to that city website, so there's no excuse. I didn't see that this meeting was posted, we want to drive people to there, not to Facebook.
yeah, I've been kind of cautious as far as like the police page to advertise like different things, because she does such a good job, the city page for that. I think a lot of people are trying to go to the city page for like all of the operational stuff that the board and the, the administrative side of the house is doing versus a police or fire thing. So, she sometimes she'll put out something sometimes and call me and say, hey, do you mind sharing it? And Elena's team as well. They'll call and say, hey, do you mind sharing this for us? But a lot of times we don't cross our information up. It was at one point, this was several managers ago, they talked about taking down the various Facebook pages, myself and Chief Drew, there's a fire department page, and there's, I think Parks and Rec had a page in the city, but yeah, so we talked about taking them all down, trying to merge, and we were trying to work a way to do that, but it was like a one insignia, like it was a police message coming out, it would have its own identity to it, but be on the same page. But when we researched that more, we found out you'd have to pretty much delete all of the pages and start over. And I think the fire department carries the most amount of followers right in behind us. And I don't know, we hated to lose that audience, so we figured we would try to share like we're doing now.
Yes, sir, thank you. This is sort of all McCoy, Officer McCoy.
Colby,
Cool.
yes.
Is he doing all right?
He is undergoing some that.
You tell him we're thinking about him and doesn't have anything to do with budget, but I just, you talked about lockouts.
Yeah.
Brother Coy, not McCoy.
Yeah.
He came and locked, and got me unlocked several times, so I
Yes, sir.
appreciate him, and his prayers are with
Y'all
you.
have the same first names, though.
Yes, sir, just spelled different, man, that's the only way I can remember, that's why I know his first name.
He called me later, and said, this guy's got the same way.
Thank you, please.
He's out of the minute, out of the.
Yes, sir, yes, sir. Okay, that's it, I'll be looking for that.
Any other questions of the chief at this point?
What is, oh, go ahead, everybody.
What is the actual territory that you're servicing now?
So
I mean,
I guess some call it like the Southwood proper, our original jurisdictional boundary stops right there at 1100 House Street. That's where it breaks. And it's kind of odd. I've learned some things. There's actually some properties on West 11th Street and back off of Yopon Drive and that way, because Southwood kind of curves across there like the moon shape. So some of those properties in the county, but that's our original. And then we have our furthest point of annex property is the Southport Crossing down at 211, almost to, almost out to West Coast. And then cutting over on, going out north on, River Road areas, of course, 400 acre property, that we do patrol. We've had some recent, I just got a call out there last week. We had 2 people out there hunting illegally, so we are working on that pretty heavily. So, that's our furthest point that way. And yeah, and then we have between pretty much where All in Bloom and the pantry is, I still call it the pantry, I apologize, what is it, Circle K now, whatever. Between there and out to the furthest point, we have multiple satellites, it's almost like a tic-tac-toe board. If you stand where Famous Subs and Pieces is right now, Famous Subs is in the county. Walgreens is in the city of Southport. Yummy House is in the city, but the bank is not. So if you're in the bank, Robert, in fashion, if you call 911 from a bank phone, we're being robbed, they're gonna dispatch a deputy of that. Because that's who shows that they're gonna dispatch a deputy, Southwood Fire, Southwood EMS. If you're calling across the street on your cell phone over there at Walgreens, if you see something, they're gonna dispatch it that way. But if you call from landlines is what kind of ties our jurisdictions. And now that's where we come into part of play is, like I said, and acting all together, because the county's 9 times out of 10 will dispatch a Southwood police officer to handle that call for them. They'll still send a unit, but if we get there, everything's okay, they cancel.
So if you
But we have a
follow
lot.
up on Laura's conversation, there's no benefit of being in Southport for some people. If they call for a late report, I'm not talking about an emergency, a late report, and we just say, well, let that be. Are we taking the report on a late call
We
on
usually-
a piece of property that's in the county, but basically you would think it's in the city because where it's physically located?
Yeah, we don't do any reporting. That has to fall under their agency
So they have to-
system, so we don't do any reports. Usually if they request us, it's like an urgent matter, it's a traffic accident.
And that was, we're gonna do.
Right, or it could be like a break and enter in progress. A lot of this, they're urgent matters. They won't call us to handle a report unless it's an argument or something.
Where that comes to play more like a vehicle accident or so ambulance, and how, excuse me, and highway patrols, has a extended ETA, then we'll go ahead and take care of that to clear the roadway, basically.
A question to follow up on that is, and I have other questions, but while we're talking about this, we've got 3 properties on North House Street that have requested de-annexation and this is working its way through the legislature. Okay. Anybody would look at them and think they're part of South, but they're not. So I believe from things that I've heard is they believe that they are still going, if they de-annex, they still get police services because they do get EMS and fire services, but they don't get police services unless, it's I guess, an armed robbery or something. Do you respond to calls for help from there?
Yes, we will respond to any call that's requested of us if we have manpower availability to do so. Like I said, we have to partner, just like if we get really busy, and the sheriff, if we get a sheriff's deputy to respond or DSLP, we have a strong working relationship with our neighboring agencies. So we have mutual aid agreements signed to help to do those. So we would.
Those emergency calls,
Emergency calls.
as opposed to a late call.
Yeah, late calls, like reports and things of that nature, we would not entertain. And no, a lot of times they would call us, somebody calls and says, somebody broke in, I just got here, it looks like they stole something. They're gonna dispatch a deputy, to come and handle that. The deputy will just stack that as a low priority until they can get there, or if they're not on the call, they'll come right to us. But if it's a higher priority type of a call, it's in progress, they come in and somebody's just run out the back door, they're gonna dispatch the county, and usually they will ask us, if the county's close, they may not ask us. But if they're further out, then they say, hey, can you see if Southport can assist with that till we can get a car there?
So I have heard that they believe that they don't have anything to lose as far as law enforcement and fire and emergency, medical, that there won't be any change.
Right.
If they are de-annexed, there would be a change.
There is, and I've had some citizens, as well asking that, because the police service is something they will lose. I mean, fire, EMS, of course, we all know how that district, it goes further out, we have a rural district, so they will have fire and EMS, respond, but they will not have an automatic response from police.
Any other questions?
I did have a couple of questions. You know, last year especially, vehicles were part of our, public discussions, public was dissatisfied about our vehicles and so forth. I'm seeing that, the vehicle for, animal services, it's only 4,500. I take it the police and it's going down. Is that right?
That's right, that is one of the vehicles on our lease program, yes, ma'am.
Okay, good to know. I also see, and this is still part of, animal, protective services. I commend, River Road Vet for being the vet on call at all time.
Yes, ma'am.
And I'm amazed that it's, that we budgeted for only 8,500 for the whole year. I think that's mostly what I have to pay every time I take my dog to the vet. Certainly feels like it. So that's a wonderful thing. I am curious why the, utilities for the dog kennel there have gone up. That's the outside kennel that, River Road allows our, officer to.
Yeah, that's where our kennel.
Yeah, I mean, why have utilities for that gone?
I don't know, I have to look at that.
Okay, I mean, it's a negligible amount, but it's.
Right. Right, I would have to say, I mean, it would have to be rates, I would have to kind of dig in and maybe check with finance and run some electric to answer that, because I mean, it's nothing added, we don't like leave lights or anything out there or anything like that, so.
And there may be a water faucet by there. I have never been actually, up close enough to pay that much attention, but
Yeah, I don't think
it just
that's one
seemed
of the
like.
things all the things, so, but yeah.
Okay, especially since.
So to speak to the utilities, that was just based on the current, if you see the year to date for the kennels, it's about $504, and that's just based on the usage. Currently, so that was just a projection based off of that. I do also want to touch on the, you mentioned the APS vehicles, so the cost of that. That lease is coming up in July, so that's one of the vehicles that's been discussed to purchase outright when that lease is up. So that $4,500 is 1 month's lease payment and a buyout.
All right.
Yeah,
How much life does that vehicle have left in it?
I would say it'll last a while because it doesn't have a lot of miles on it. It's just operational around town. It sits there at her office and then, so. And we asked her to help her operation early on. She wanted to drive it to and from home with some of the city employees, like we do for that, because she is on call sometimes, but she chose just to leave it here, in the city, so she was comfortable coming and getting it, that kind of thing. But yeah, I think that vehicle will last us for quite some time. She's pretty happy with it. We talked about it the other day, and I mean, it's pretty much a mobile. If you've been in it, I mean, everything you kind of need is right in there to handle an alligator or dog, cat, or anything else, so.
Any other questions for the chief?
I think I have a question. The call volume is about 34% higher. So look at it quantified, we quantified. And so not need additional officers.
Well, I was gonna tell you on that day in closing, I mean, I'm probably gonna be looking at next year asking for 2 officers. about 2 years back, y'all, asked for 2 officers and it kind of offset, because now we have two permanent day shift officers, 2 permanent night shift officers. A couple of years ago, I'd asked for 2 officers, and they kind of offset that along with the sergeants, so they're working peak hours. But, you know, we are kind of seeing an increase in that, but like I said, our part-time officers, we're blessed to be able to have a lot of input and a lot of work from them, so they're kind of helping us offset that right now. But, one of those officers, I think, he's about reached his limit. I think he can go ahead and fully retire. So I think probably by next year, you will be seeing me asking for a couple more officers. But I was the last budget cycle, actually the last 2 budget cycles, I was kind of cautious not to ask for employees. So I really kind of dug down and tried to do, you know, our best with what we had. You know, myself and the lieutenants and so we will go out and answer calls and try to help with that, you know, as well. But that's why you haven't seen me really ask. I'm trying to just be as frugal as I can with our part-time and stuff like that.
Because in the comprehensive plan, it said that DOT estimates we get 17,000
Yes.
cars, but y'all have clocked 30.
Yeah.
So again, that's why I'm saying the numbers, all these numbers are way higher than
Yes.
what you're really tooled up for.
Yeah, so, but yeah, you'll probably be seeing that we've been working on some of those numbers, so, yes.
Is there a, go ahead, no, go.
This is a process question. We talk about Animal Protective Services, how she gets a phone call directly from people needing things. I would like some kind of process in the middle there. Somebody submits a request either by phone, text, or whatever, so that we know that there was a call to her, not depending on her to write it down,
Right.
but have some kind of a mechanism. I have a lost dog. You submit this, text your number, do some kind of process that then is recorded, that someone has asked for help from the Animal Protective Services. She gets notified.
Sure.
And we have a record.
Well,
We've got to have some kind of a process to track what she does,
yes,
how it returns out.
right, and she does have that some degree of expense. I got before we heard, this is the sheet that she gives me, and it kind of spells out her actions each month, and we do a monthly summary of police activities and APS. So she does kind of do that. She's got her own system that she had prior to coming under the police department that she reports all of her stuff through. Now, we have been talking to her, myself and Lieutenant, about bringing her on board with, we're gonna look at that moving forward, putting her under the same CAD computer-aided dispatch system that the police officers have, because there are multiple benefits to that. But I want to make sure she, early on, some of the reporting that she can do with the system she already had, I'm not sure that I can all integrate into the system that the police officers use now. Leland Police Officers, their Animal Protective Services unit, and Bowling Spring Lakes Animal Protective Services teams, they all are already on that system as well.
So if there was a call, she goes on the call that she's talking over the phone,
Right.
and she needs help. At this point in time, how would you know where she is?
Well, yeah, some things that we have, she has a radio issue to her, just like we carry. She has a call sign, so when she came under the police department, that's something we wanted to do. She had a call sign prior just to attach her for the officers, so.
But is that for you to call her or for her to tell you, the people that are on the street, I'm going to this house for this call? How did they know?
She's been advised, as of recently, we would like for her to call out, when she does go to a house, to call out on the radio with comms and let them know where she's at. Also, that obviously lets officer know. where
The
she's
CAD
at.
system, and I'm asking a question here. The CAD system, it goes to from car to car. It would be somehow fill that out before going to the call, and then thus people in the car who are currently working would be able to track what she's doing as you track each other, what you're doing. So if you get into trouble, you know where to go.
Yeah, she doesn't have the full capability with, the system we use now.
But that's what you're talking about.
Yeah.
You're into.
I'm not trying to make her life worse. I actually want to make it easier.
I want to.
So she just does what she does, but it's timestamped automation.
Right.
Y'all are notified, she's notified. We've got a timestamp of when all this started.
Yeah,
And we can track things better. It's not,
Yeah.
again, I want to make it easier so she can do her job versus having to
Right.
remember. We
well,
have to fill out.
we agree about both easier safer, number one
Yes.
priority.
Very
For us, it's always number first, her safety first, but also cost effective because of the system that she's using, that we can make sure it can mirror the one we're also paying for. That would be a cost reduction because, you'll see the Comgate program that she uses. So we can merge that together, but I want to make sure that she's comfortable and knows that it can all work. We just actually had a conversation about that, here recently. So, and we have encouraged her, Mayor, when she does, if she gets a call on her cell phone, to radio in to dispatch, 165.
An intro.
I heard her yesterday, as a matter of fact, she checked out, I called Stewart Avenue, followed up on her dog bike, she checked out, and she's under the same safety regards that we are. She checks out on the call. She's on the they're gonna check on her within a matter of minutes to make sure she's okay. She's okay. They'll know she's fine. The officers here know where she's at in case she needs something. But a lot of times since she's been with us, if there's an issue where she feels like there may be a problem, she'll call one of us ahead of time and say, can an officer go to this house and follow up and so. But a lot of the reporting, we've been able to streamline because when, that was one of the things that was brought before me when we brought, APS under the police department, was there, the reporting was not, it looked like there was not a lot of activity that she was doing, so we talked about that. I talked about that. Yeah, so several of y'all asked me about that, so we talked, we came, Kate, and we talked, so she's been reporting stuff, put it on our reporting and all that, so that's why you see these numbers, I think they reflect that.
That's why it needs to stay under there, because no one is not gonna be able to keep track of that.
Well,
Like
we'll
they
get,
can-
Mark, we'll get to that conversation when we get to that
Yes, sir.
conversation. But do you have any other
No,
questions?
sir.
So I have a question. Is there a cost involved? Because there was a meeting yesterday that one part of that had to do with illegally parked cars blocking driveways. So the scenario is the car is parked blocking a person's driveway, the car is parked on the right of way. They block the driveway. What's the process to get the car off?
I apologize.
So is the process, we leave it to the homeowner to have to do something, or do we the city, move the car?
If it's on private property, the citizens would do that. If it's in the right of way, if somebody calls, we get these calls sometimes, you think where Salty Soda was, there's a couple driveways there. So we do get calls sometimes. That's one of the most popular types of calls we do get, Mayor. So we would, if necessary, we need to tell them, we had called, I believe, some to come to each other. If they're parked, we run the tag, we try to locate the owner. We run through our computer-aided system to see if we can get a phone number for them. A lot of times, believe it or not, when you get a call out there and they activate their blue lights and emergency equipment, they get out there walking around. I know one time they had a breaker on the way and it was almost there and somebody came running out and said, hey.
So my question is, if you are going to move the car, because you can't.
Yes, sir.
In North Carolina, does a parking ticket go with the car, or do you tow it without a parking ticket?
No, I think we're gonna take an action tow, we would cite it, or it would be paid for with it, and we have a tow company rotation.
I'm envisioning that as your calls for service go up, the number of people that are here, we're gonna get more of those things. And is there any processes, parking tickets, things like that, that we need to order to have that stuff? Because we kind of made, I'm going to use the word commitments, but we're going to do our best, absolute commitment, to make sure that certain certain driveways are not blocked as they are allegedly blocked. Not seen and down there all the time, but the perception is that they're blocked often. And so if we have to start yanking people out, and how do we figure out what's the best way to mark that? So people that are coming down there in the Yacht Basin area on Friday and Saturday nights know the driveway there. We should be able to see the driveway. Those things in the future we're gonna have to figure out. But there's a cost factor to that. I don't know what that would be. Part of that would be Tom Stanley's job. Painting of a road or a sign, whatever that is. But just ask you to start thinking about what there might be for on your side of the equation that we haven't budgeted for what we have to do.
Is this perhaps part of, did I interrupt you?
You did.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
So the issue that I'm just gonna state for each department, singling out the department, is that we have a 1.4 to 1.4 million gap. We have to close a gap. There's only 4 ways that I know that we can close the gap. Maybe more, and I'm willing to entertain any of them. But the 4 ways of closing the gap is that we take the money out of the general fund. We just reduce it. That's one way to do it. And it can be a combination of all of this. You can cut programs, you can cut staff, or you can raise taxes. I don't know of any other way to do that. But
Raise revenue other ways.
but we don't have that option right now. So we can't do that until Richmond allows us to do that. So we have asked for that, but that doesn't mean we're gonna get it. And even if we do get it, it's not a tremendous amount of money. So everybody has to figure out, keep rolling in their head. We may be back having a conversation about how does everybody contribute to that? Don't have to have that now because I'm waiting for the manager's budget to see where he comes up with whatever he's come up with. I want us to all understand that it has to be a collective team. So, something to think about. Did you have something that?
I've almost forgotten it.
Hold on to it a little longer.
Can I circle back? Don't other people have
Is there any
questions?
other questions of the police chief that we have? Mr. Manager, do you have any questions or thoughts you want to convey to us on this?
I think we've done a good job today. Our next one will be April 22nd, which at 9 o'clock here, which will be for fire and EMS. So we'll do that. Like you said, as we go forward, we have a lot of work to still do as we get to the final product. But I think each day we have these discussions, and as we go through it piece by piece, that'll help us as we go forward. So
What was that sound?
Hearing.
Oh,
So
I thought maybe it was, a police.
All right, if there's no other questions in this, I'm entertaining motion. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned. Unanimous, thank you. Can I talk, can I claim that?
Sure, just one moment.